happening, gang? It's your boy Retro back again with another reaction video. Yeah. Today we got another huge update. You guys can probably already tell it's going down by the title, you guys. We've got yet another explosion on the set of Fox News' The Five. We've got two hosts bumping heads on Kamala and her policies. What does she stand for? Who really knows? I'm excited to get into the updates. We're gonna get straight into it. Just make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you one thing, guys. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Without further ado, let's get into it, you guys.
Harold, the interesting part of this no tax on tips is that Kamala doesn't even say, you know, even though Donald Trump talked about it. And you add to that she was actually the tie-breaking vote to give more power to the IRS agents to be able to actually tax those tips. And so on the one hand, we had Joe Biden, the plagiarist, and now Kamala, the copycat. What say you?
Good to be with you. I hope you had a good weekend. It's been a tough 3 weeks. So I look at campaigns as they are. You have two people running for an office. We'll do a segment on this. The person running for the Democratic job, running on the Democratic side, got.
He can't even get it out, God. I think he's about to start making a bunch of excuses for why Kamala Harris is copycat and saying that she hasn't had enough time to prepare. Cut it out. Don't come with the excuses, Harold. Give us the truth. Give it to us straight right now. Let's hear it.
For the Democratic job, running on the Democratic side, got moved into the slot after getting the delegates to go with her after a period of time. We'll talk about it. And you have a Republican who was on top. He was ahead in the polls. Here we go 3 weeks later. Donald Trump has called Kamala Harris, I think, dumb, incompetent, not black, and low IQ. And the end result is she's gaining in the polls. Now, you're right. You said last week there's not a lot populating her website and other things talking about substance and specifics on issues. And frankly, I looked on President Trump's. There's not a lot on his either.
I'm glad that, the left is able to admit that there's not much substance behind Kamala Harris. And then they're trying to cope to say it's not much on Donald Trump either. Not much substance. There's tons of substance, tons of policy that Donald Trump stands for. And that's why the folks are able to, rally behind him in such huge numbers, guys, historic numbers, because he has something that he stands for versus Kamala Harris. She's just a big old phony, a copycat and a liar. And you can see it right here. Listen to him. He's trying to cope.
In specifics on issues. And frankly, I looked on President Trump's. There's not a lot on his either. There's a little more, but there's not a lot. The copycat thing, I'll come to it. When I was in Congress and someone wanted to co-sponsor a bill that I wanted to sponsor, and they were Republican, and some members of their party may not have liked the thing, I didn't condemn them. I commended them. I think that everyone knows that Donald Trump was the first to begin to say no.
Yeah, you commended them, but you commended people from stealing your policy, but they gave you credit. That's like someone turned in your assignment with their name on the paper. Like, you didn't even give me any credit, guys. You turned in the group project and you erased my name. Like, come on. It was me that coined this. Now you're going to come out of nowhere and say, hey, this is what I agree with. This is all me, and this is just a new idea I had overnight. Like, no, you have to admit where you originate, where this originally came from. You have to give credit to your opponent, Donald Trump. And that'll wake up your supporters also say, oh, she's just, in support of what Donald Trump's in support of. We might as well just support Donald Trump. And that's what the point we're getting at. Harold, keep on coping. Let's hear it.
I think that everyone knows that Donald Trump was the first to begin to say no taxes on tips. And if I'm not mistaken, the greatest form of flattery is imitation. And for her to be saying this is a good idea, I think the president should probably embrace it. Joe Scarborough, who's on another network, we were on the same committee together in Congress. I was able to show him how public schools in his district suffered from something that public schools in my district did. And if you were to listen to the vernacular and the narrative from our colleagues, you would think that we were polar opposite, Democrats and Republicans, on this particular funding for certain public schools. Turns out we were aligned. We sponsored together, got passed through committee, and eventually got put into a piece of legislation. I just think you should commend and not condemn when these things happen. Because if President Trump said, I am for restoring Roe v. Wade, I'd be the first to say, I like that copycat. If he were to say, I am for smarter gun laws to ensure that kids don't get them.
But if he was saying those things, it would kind of just come out and look, especially if it goes against what you've been saying in the past, it'll just come out as looking like, okay, you're just saying things to get votes. You have no backbone. You're just as flimsy as they come. You're spineless. You'll say whatever, do whatever in order to get in that seat, the White House, be the president. Like, come on. That's not all right to just flip flop like that, hero. I don't know who or why you would support someone that's just so flip-floppy or lenient on what they support, but I guess, man, and this is the Dems for you. Here you go.
Okay. If he were to say, I am for smarter gun laws to ensure that kids don't get them and we have stronger background checks, I'd say copycat Donald Trump. He's my guy. So I think people should embrace this and understand that this is really how public policy gets made, at least good public policy gets made.
Brian, this new Kamala that we're seeing, I mean, where is she?
It almost seemed like Judge Jeanine was just dumbfounded by the response she got from Harold on this one. Like, I asked you about Kamala copycat, and then now you're somehow coping to make it all right. Like, I wish Donald Trump would copycat some of Kamala's policies. Like, cut it out. Look, Judge Janine's even like, okay, we're gonna move on past this guy.
Brian, this new Kamala that we're seeing, I mean, where has she been? Even the mainstream media made fun of her, the word salads, the fact that she couldn't get a statement straight. Now they're basically saying that, you know, this woman is now the new queen of the Democrat Party, when 2 weeks ago Barack Obama said she can't win.
And he's great friends with her. They've been friends for 20 years. First off, Harold, you're right. If she said in her speech, you know, Donald Trump had a great idea the other day. He says no tax on tips. I thought about it. Now that I'm here in Nevada looking at all you, I think he was right. Didn't I?
Brian makes a great point. Like I said, you have to give credit. You can't just rip this guy's policies off and they be like, yeah, this is, and present it as a new policy. Like, this is my new policy I came up with. You can't do that. That's a rip off. You can't rip someone off like that. You have to give credit where credit is due. And that's the point we're trying to give to Harold. Harold is just, I think that Trump derangement syndrome, it's fogging up his ears. He can't hear anything. And it's just one ear, out the other. He's not listening.
You're right. If she said in her speech, you know, Donald Trump had a great idea the other day. He says no tax on tips. I thought about it. Now that I'm here in Nevada looking at all you, I think he was right. Didn't I? Think you're right.
I'll call her and tell her to do that.
But she's not condemned. She's not giving him any credit. She's acting like she got the idea. She's like, it's her idea to be tough on the border. She cut this in. I don't know where she got this archival footage from, but she's been terrible on it. And people are just saying, wait, why don't you admit that it's been a sieve for 3.5 years, but I want to change it? Now she says, I'm going to tackle inflation on day one. I think to myself, why? You're in day three, 1,000 plus. You should be tackling it to begin with. You're part of it. Unless you're going to say that you've been on the sidecar not doing anything, at one point you got to say, listen, President Biden, good guy, but sideline me. He wouldn't give me any chance. Now you get a chance to see my policy. Been 3 weeks. You're going to see all this stuff in front of you. But what's so maddening is she's not admitting and acknowledging that she's flipping on all these issues. She's not even verbalizing it. And now she comes out and takes these two things. Like you said in the open, is she going to say build the wall next? Because I really expect her to say that. The other thing she might say is Social Security. Trump's other idea that he said maybe we should stop taxing Social Security. And I'm wondering, is she going to say that to seniors next time she goes to a retirement home?
Yep. All right, Dana, over the past couple of weeks, we've seen that the audiences are getting bigger, that, you know, all of the momentum is on her side now, and that she literally is in a position where if she goes off script, if she does an interview, she could collapse. So do you think she's going to do that?
Well, remember, in every campaign, let's just think back to her campaign in 2020. She starts off really strong.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it falls apart. That might not happen here. The timing is very, very good for her. And one of the things I thought was quite shocking was that for the first time you saw some polls say that voters who care about the economy trust Democrats and Kamala Harris more than Donald Trump on the economy.
That right there is just scary, guys. They trust Kamala Harris to turn this ship around. Oh, I wouldn't trust her to pull out of my driveway. Like, no way, guys. She's not turning around anywhere. Not for us. Please don't. I really hope and pray this is not the case, because folks are really starting to believe. After what we've seen the last 3 weeks, this is what you guys are coming to the conclusion of, that Kamala Harris is going to be the one that dig us out of this ditch. Oh my goodness. Say it isn't so, guys. Comment down. Please say it. Just say it ain't so.
About the economy, trust Democrats and Kamala Harris more than Donald Trump on the economy now. It's like, wait, how did that happen? The other thing she could have done on the tax thing, on the tips, she could have said, President Trump had this idea. I'll see him and I'll raise him this, and I'll cut this, and I'll do this. Like something that would be like, okay, well, I like that idea. First of all, I actually.
Now that right there is very presidential. You know, that's presidential-esque right there. You start, you know, raising someone's propositions, you know, their proposals, saying, hey, I see Donald Trump going to do the no taxation on the tips. I do you one better, you know, and keep adding up on top. Now that is how you build about, you know, support from your voters. But coming out here and just stealing, straight up ripping off your opponent, it's going to make them go right over across the aisle to their, why get it from you secondhand? I can go over here and get it from Donald Trump. He's the first one. He's got all these great ideas telling me, hey, no tax on tips. Yeah, come on now. I mean, let's make it make sense is all I'm saying.
I'll do this. Like something that would be like, okay, well, I like that idea. First of all, I actually think that no tax on tips might be a great idea. I think in practice, when you start thinking about, well, what about the dishwasher? Should the dishwasher have to pay taxes too? Because the dishwasher gets paid less. And I think that it's just a little bit more complicated than anybody is allowing for. And I would say, just having gotten back from a week away of, I followed the news a lot, but I should say welcome. I'm glad to be back around the table.
I should have said welcome back.
No, I should have said thank you. It's good to be back around the table.
I didn't say it.
But it's interesting to not have to talk, to read about it and observe, but not have to talk about it all the time, and to realize like this campaign feels very strange. It feels very hollow. Her campaign in particular.
It feels hollow because there's no substance, guys. There's no substance behind it. She is the copycat warrior. Come on now, she's a fraud. She's ripping, she's hijacking Donald Trump's everything he stands for. She's going to try to rip it and steal it from underneath him and try to regurgitate it, feed it to her, you know, her voters, her supporters, to tell them, hey, this is new. I just found this. This is for you guys. You know, come on. I'm sick of it at this point. I can't even play this game for long.
Campaign feels very strange. It feels very hollow. Her campaign in particular, and the issues that people care about, just like we have big problems in the country and people aren't talking about it. And she is trying to run as both an incumbent vice president with all of the, you know, selling them on the mantle of her experience and her record. But also she wants you to know she doesn't believe any of that. And the media is like, okay. And to think that she's on the cover of Time magazine, the cover of the Atlantic, on the very week that Simone Biles just stuns the world. Like, we could have put Kamala Harris on the magazine next week, but they seem to have her in thrall. And the last thing I would say is, when I say she starts off strong, remember also her campaign fell apart partly because of personnel issues and management, her management. And right now there's a story in Politico that David Plouffe, who's an Obama person who's come on board to help, is clashing with some of the Biden advisors because there are no clear lines of assignment. And if you look at the New York Times article that explained what was happening in her office, these were people on the record speaking, it was a similar issue. I don't know if she has enough time to get through it without, you know, a big stumble, but she's going to have probably a decent week this week and a good one next week.
Right. Time is on her side. You know what, Greg, I want you to take a look at these side-by-sides. One is the, what Dana mentioned, the Time magazine cover with Kamala, and the other is the Time magazine cover of Donald Trump with his face melting. So the difference between how they portray a Republican running for president and a Democrat.
To be fair, and I have to address this to Dana, Time magazine, they thought that was Simone Biles.
Stop it.
Who cares about Time magazine? It's the most irrelevant publication. Its circulation is in the dumper. No one reads it. You know, it's like being on the cover of Cracked. Does that still exist? I don't even know. You know, here's the deal. You said it was like, it feels hollow. It's hollow because it is. The fact is, in life, the more you get to know someone, the less you like them. I mean, we've learned this with Kilmeade. But it's why
no one's learned that with Kilmeade.
But it's why marriage is a commitment. You know, the first impression is the greatest impression, and then as you get to know people and you peel away the onion, you realize it's a commitment. So right now, the media is doing its best, because they're running this show, to keep Kamala Harris in the first impression zone, right? She's an unopened Christmas present. You know, as long as it's not open, you can imagine what it is, but you'll never get disappointed because you won't open it. So the media is doing its best to keep that present from being opened by the American public, because over time, which is what happens in a campaign, you see that it's all that it's not cracked up to be. Her copying Trump is a great strategy. So for 1 minute, you're labeling the guy Hitler, and then the next, you're taking Hitler's positions. Because you know that the media won't point it out. Wasn't Trump's policies on the border xenophobic? Wasn't it heartless and reminiscent of the Third Reich? But when Kamala does it, it's joyful. You know, look how joyful deportations are. They're just, oh, the families are so happy.
Right.
You know, they love to get separated. But it's a terrible strategy to call it copycat stuff because it just comes off as whining. And Harold has a point. When an opposing team copies something from their competition, it's because they realize that it's smart. And the counter strategy is to react by pushing that team further in the right direction, kind of like what you were talking about. Trump should exploit his gravitational pull, you know, demand that Harris fix the tax code now. Why aren't you doing this now? I mean, release a plan that actually lowers taxes for small businesses in the middle class. You're a VP. You've been here. You know, you're the border czar. Right now, you're the border czar. Why don't you do it? You know, Trump, in a weird way, is making Kamala great for once. You know, but having said that, you shouldn't buy it because this has been a liberal trick for years. As you get close to an election, suddenly the Democrats dispense with the wacky, destructive, progressive crap, and they embrace republicanism. Suddenly they sound like mom and dad, all of us, instead of the tantrum-throwing brats. They did this with Joe. They had him pretend that he was this middle-of-the-road moderate who's going to unite the country, and then what happens? He gets in and practically destroys the place. There's a history of evidence here that it's all a big lie, that they always use candidates as a Trojan horse to bring in a radical. It's like the bad boyfriend who suddenly becomes a gentleman in order to get the girlfriend back, and then once he gets her back, he's back to whoring. That's exactly what the Democrats do in every election. They rule left, then they campaign right, and then they're back to the further left. So the fact is, while I say it's great that she's impersonating Trump, it's just an impersonation. Much like you, Brian, when you're trying to be me.
Or Jesse.
I don't. Yeah, more like Jesse. I would think so.
All right.
I would say this: if it's so great to be Trump, why don't they just run on that?
No.
Why not run on her policy?
No, but you know what they're offering here? What they're offering is they're saying to the voters, you like Trump's policies, but you don't like his personality? Well, you can have his policies without his personality. It's brilliant.
Right.
All right. Coming up.
Yo, there we have it, guys. Fox News The 5 coming breaking it down. Kamala Harris's copycat episodes, why it may actually benefit her and her campaign strategy. I just don't see how people can't see through it. You know, her voters. I mean, you had to at least heard it once or twice. But then again, you got to think the Trump derangement syndrome runs all the way through. So maybe they're too, closed-minded to even hear what Donald Trump's policies are. So it really does sound new to them. You know, Kamala Harris, the no taxation on tips, sounds like a new ring in their ears. Guys, hop in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think Kamala Harris is going to gain more support by stealing Donald Trump's policies or copycatting Donald Trump's policies? Hop in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. Also, make sure you guys hit that share button. Share this out to as many Facebook friends as possible. Also, make sure you guys hit that like button, that subscribe button if you enjoy more content like this. I'll catch y'all next week.